Randy Orton has been called a lot of things throughout his legendary career in professional wrestling, but one word keeps coming up when his peers talk about him behind the scenes: monster. Not the kind of monster you see in horror movies, but something far more real and intimidating. The stories that have emerged from WWE locker rooms over the past 2 decades paint a picture of a man who operates on a completely different level than most wrestlers, someone whose intensity and ruthlessness have left even the toughest veterans shaken. What makes these revelations even more shocking is that they're coming directly from WWE legends who've shared the ring with Orton, people who've witnessed firsthand why this third-generation superstar earned such a fearsome reputation. If you're a wrestling fan who wants to dive deep into the untold stories of WWE's biggest names, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we're bringing you exclusive content you won't find anywhere else. The first thing legends talk about when discussing Randy Orton is his surgical precision in the ring. John Cena once revealed in an interview that working with Orton was like stepping into a chess match where his opponent was always 3 moves ahead. Cena described how Orton would study his opponents for weeks before a match, memorizing every tendency, every habit, every little quirk they had. But what made it truly terrifying was how Orton used that information. He wouldn't just counter moves, he'd punish wrestlers for even attempting them. Cena recalled a match where he went for his signature shoulder tackle and Orton hit him with such a perfectly timed counter that it felt like walking into a brick wall. The message was clear: Orton had been waiting for that exact moment. Edge, who has been friends and rivals with Orton for years, shared a story that perfectly captures why people call him a monster. During their rated RKO tag team run, Edge noticed something disturbing about Orton's preparation. Before every match, Orton would sit in complete silence for 30 minutes, not listening to music, not talking to anyone, just staring at a fixed point on the wall. Edge asked him once what he was doing, and Orton's response chilled him to the bone. He said he was visualizing every way the match could go wrong and planning how to hurt someone if they messed up. Edge realized in that moment that Orton didn't just want to win matches, he wanted to dominate them so completely that his opponents would think twice before stepping in the ring with him again. The stories get even more intense when you hear what happened during Orton's early years. Bob Orton Jr., Randy's father and a wrestling legend himself, told a story about when Randy was breaking into the business. There was a veteran wrestler who decided to test the young Orton by being stiff with him during a match, hitting him harder than necessary to see if the kid would fold. Instead of backing down, Randy Orton matched that intensity and then exceeded it. He hit back twice as hard, faster, and with more precision than the veteran could handle. By the end of the match, it was the veteran who was asking for mercy. Bob Orton said he'd never seen that level of controlled aggression in someone so young, and it was at that moment he knew his son was going to be something special and something dangerous. Mick Foley, who's been in the ring with some of the most intense competitors in wrestling history, put Orton in a category all by himself. Foley explained that most wrestlers have an off switch, a point where they can separate their in-ring persona from their real personality. According to Foley, Orton's switch is stuck in the on position. He carries that intensity everywhere, whether he's in the ring, backstage, or just sitting in catering. Foley described an encounter where he was giving some advice to a younger wrestler and Orton overheard the conversation. Without being asked, Orton approached and corrected something Foley had said, not in a disrespectful way but with such authority and certainty that everyone in the area stopped what they were doing to listen. Foley admitted that in that moment, he felt like a student being corrected by a master, and it made him realize just how seriously Orton takes every aspect of the wrestling business. The physical capabilities that make Orton a monster are legendary in their own right. Mark Henry, one of the strongest men to ever step in a WWE ring, shared a story about a European tour where he and Orton were working out together. Henry was benching an enormous amount of weight, showing off a bit for the younger guys in the gym. Orton didn't say anything, he just watched. After Henry finished, Orton asked if he could try something. He proceeded to do a workout routine that focused entirely on explosive power and speed, hitting movements so fast and with such precision that Henry said it looked like someone had put a regular workout on fast forward. When Orton was done, he explained to Henry that raw strength was impressive but useless if you couldn't apply it in a split second. Henry realized that Orton had just politely told him that speed and timing beat pure power, and the scary part was that Orton was absolutely right. Christian, who spent years working with Orton in various storylines, revealed something that explained a lot about Orton's reputation. He said that Orton has this uncanny ability to sense fear. During a backstage segment, Christian watched as a new wrestler came up to pitch an idea to Orton for their upcoming match. The kid was nervous, understandably so given Orton's reputation. Christian said Orton's entire demeanor changed when he sensed that nervousness. His eyes went cold, his body language became more aggressive, and suddenly the kid wasn't just pitching an idea anymore, he was fighting for his professional life. Orton picked apart every suggestion, not to be cruel but to test whether this wrestler had the backbone to hang with him. Christian said it was like watching a predator test potential prey, and only those who stood their ground earned Orton's respect. Ric Flair, who's been in the business longer than almost anyone and has seen every type of wrestler imaginable, called Orton the most naturally gifted performer he'd ever witnessed. But Flair added a crucial detail that explains the monster label. He said Orton knows he's that good, and he uses it as a psychological weapon. During their Evolution days, Flair watched as Orton would deliberately outperform everyone in segments and matches, not to show off but to establish dominance. Flair described it as a young lion taking over a pride, systematically proving he was the alpha until no one dared challenge him. What made it even more impressive to Flair was that Orton did all this while making it look effortless, which only added to his intimidating presence. Batista shared a particularly revealing story about the intensity that defines Orton. During a house show circuit, there was a match where something went wrong and Batista accidentally hit Orton harder than intended. Batista immediately apologized after the match, expecting to clear the air and move on. Instead, Orton said absolutely nothing. For the next 3 shows, Orton worked even stiffer with Batista, hitting him with moves that were technically perfect but delivered with maximum impact. Batista finally confronted him about it, and Orton simply said that if they were going to work stiff, they were going to work stiff. The message was received loud and clear: you don't take liberties with Randy Orton without consequences. Batista admitted that experience taught him more about ring psychology and respect than years of training ever could. Kurt Angle, an Olympic gold medalist and one of the toughest competitors in WWE history, had his own revelation about Orton's monster status. Angle explained that in amateur wrestling and even in professional wrestling, there are levels of intensity that people can reach. Most wrestlers operate at maybe 70 or 80% during regular matches, saving that extra gear for big events. Angle said Orton doesn't have that setting. Every single match, every single move, every single moment in the ring, Orton is operating at maximum intensity. Angle compared it to fighting someone who never gets tired, never loses focus, and never gives you a moment to breathe. He said their matches were some of the most physically demanding of his career because Orton pushed that pace relentlessly from bell to bell. Shawn Michaels provided insight into the mental aspect of Orton's monster reputation. Michaels explained that great wrestlers are great salesmen, they make you believe the story they're telling in the ring. Orton takes it a step further. He makes his opponents believe they're actually in danger. Michaels described working with Orton and feeling genuine concern during certain spots, not because Orton was unsafe but because his execution was so precise and so intense that it triggered real survival instincts. Michaels said that ability to blur the line between performance and reality is what separates good wrestlers from legends, and Orton mastered it at an age when most wrestlers are still learning basic moves. The Undertaker, perhaps the most respected voice in all of professional wrestling, shared his perspective on why Orton earned the monster moniker. Undertaker talked about the first time he worked with a young Randy Orton and immediately recognized something familiar. He saw the same cold focus, the same calculated aggression, the same unwillingness to show weakness that defined Undertaker's own legendary career. But Undertaker added something that really drives home why people see Orton as a monster. He said that while Undertaker built his character around being supernatural and intimidating, Orton achieved the same result by just being himself turned up to maximum volume. There was no gimmick, no special effects, just raw intensity and skill that made people genuinely uncomfortable. Triple H, who's worked with Orton in every possible capacity from tag team partner to bitter rival to corporate colleague, revealed the business side of Orton's monster reputation. Triple H explained that in WWE, there's an unspoken hierarchy based on respect and ability. Orton established himself at the top of that hierarchy through sheer dominance. Triple H described production meetings where Orton would suggest changes to matches or storylines, and people would listen not because of his name or his position but because everyone knew he understood the business at a level most never reach. Triple H said that kind of respect isn't given, it's taken, and Orton took it by being better, smarter, and more intense than everyone around him. Chris Jericho offered a unique perspective as someone who's reinvented himself multiple times throughout his career. Jericho talked about adaptability being crucial in wrestling, the ability to change with the times and stay relevant. He said watching Orton was fascinating because Orton never seemed to adapt or change, yet he remained at the top of the card for 2 decades. Jericho realized that Orton didn't need to adapt because he'd mastered the fundamentals so completely that trends and styles didn't matter. Whether wrestling was focused on high-flying moves, technical grappling, or hardcore brawling, Orton's precision and intensity allowed him to excel in any environment. Jericho compared it to a shark, perfectly evolved for its environment and unchanged for millions of years because it doesn't need to change. Rey Mysterio provided insight into how Orton's monster reputation affected different styles of wrestling. As someone whose entire career was built on speed and agility, Rey initially thought he had advantages over a bigger, more methodical wrestler like Orton. Their first real program together shattered that assumption. Rey described how Orton systematically shut down every speed advantage, every high-flying move, every trick Rey had developed over decades. Orton didn't just counter Rey's offense, he made Rey doubt his own abilities. Rey said some of their matches left him mentally exhausted in a way that physical beatings never could, because Orton had gotten inside his head and made him question everything he thought he knew about wrestling. William Regal, renowned as one of the greatest technical wrestlers ever, shared a story that perfectly illustrates Orton's approach. Regal was working with Orton on some technical aspects of chain wrestling, trying to show him some intricate holds and transitions. Orton learned them all in one session, then proceeded to show Regal how each one could be countered and turned into an RKO setup. Regal said he realized in that moment that Orton didn't learn moves to add them to his arsenal, he learned them to understand how to defeat them. That strategic mindset, combined with his physical gifts, made Orton nearly impossible to surprise or catch off guard. Regal said it was the approach of someone who studied war rather than just fighting. Booker T talked about the locker room presence that contributed to Orton's reputation. Booker described how some wrestlers are loud and boisterous, always trying to be the center of attention. Orton was the opposite. He'd sit quietly, observe everything, and only speak when he had something important to say. But when he did speak, everyone listened. Booker recalled a situation where there was tension between different groups in the locker room, the kind of thing that could explode into real problems. Orton stepped in, laid out exactly what was going to happen, and made it clear that anyone who had a problem with that could take it up with him personally. The situation dissolved immediately. Booker said that's real power, not given by a title or position but earned through respect and just a hint of fear. Kane, who's portrayed a literal monster throughout his career, had an interesting take on why people call Orton a monster. Kane explained that his character was designed to be intimidating and scary, everything from the mask to the pyrotechnics to the storylines. Orton achieved the same effect without any of that. Kane said working with Orton was unnerving because Orton's eyes never changed. Whether he was shaking your hand backstage or hitting you with an RKO, those eyes had the same cold, calculated look. Kane said that consistency, that inability to read what Orton was really thinking or feeling, made him more unsettling than any horror movie character could ever be. Big Show shared a story about Orton's fearlessness that really drove home the monster label. During a match, there was a spot where Show was supposed to catch Orton coming off the top rope. It's a trust spot, requiring complete faith that your opponent will catch you. Show said most wrestlers show at least a moment of hesitation before doing something like that. It's natural self-preservation. Orton didn't hesitate at all. He hit the move with complete commitment, almost daring Show to miss. Show said that kind of fearlessness was either incredibly brave or slightly crazy, and with Orton he was never quite sure which it was. Either way, it made Orton dangerous because he'd commit fully to anything if he believed it would make the match better. Goldberg, who's known for his own intense persona, admitted that working with Orton was an eye-opening experience. Goldberg built his career on aggression and dominance, running through opponents with overwhelming power. When he faced Orton, he expected to intimidate the younger wrestler with his presence and intensity. Instead, Orton met him blow for blow, showing zero fear or hesitation. Goldberg said it was the first time in years that someone had matched his intensity, and it forced him to elevate his own performance. Goldberg realized that Orton's reputation wasn't hype or exaggeration, it was earned through consistently being the toughest, most focused person in every situation. The consistent theme throughout all these stories from WWE Legends is that Randy Orton operates on a different level than most wrestlers. His combination of physical ability, mental intensity, strategic thinking, and absolute fearlessness creates a presence that intimidates even the most accomplished veterans. These aren't stories about a difficult person or someone hard to work with. They're accounts of someone who takes wrestling so seriously, who commits so fully to his craft, that it creates an aura that can only be described as monstrous. Orton demands excellence from himself and everyone around him, and he's willing to back up that demand with actions that leave no doubt about his capabilities. The legends who've shared these stories all speak with a mixture of respect, admiration, and just a touch of relief that they don't have to face Orton in his prime anymore. They recognize that what makes Orton a monster is the same thing that makes him one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. His unwillingness to accept anything less than perfection, his ability to push himself and his opponents beyond their perceived limits, and his complete mastery of both the physical and psychological aspects of professional wrestling have created a legacy that will be discussed for decades to come. These revelations from WWE Legends confirm what many have suspected throughout Orton's career: he's not just playing a character or working a gimmick, this is who Randy Orton really is, and that's what makes him truly terrifying. If you enjoyed diving deep into these incredible stories about Randy Orton and want more exclusive content about your favorite WWE superstars, don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we're bringing you the stories that nobody else is talking about.